Family is supposed to be forever, right? The ones who hold your hand when the world collapses. The ones who never walk away. I used to believe that too. My name is Hannah. Not too long ago, I lost my husband, David, to liver cancer. Now it's just me and my 10-year-old daughter, Emma. My heart was shattered. And that's when my family stepped in, my parents, my younger brother Mark, and his wife Caroline. They had what they called the perfect remedy. A family weekend in Olympic National Park. Fresh air, tents, no cell service. It was supposed to be peaceful, healing. It felt like love, like comfort. Until one morning, I woke up to silence. The cars? Gone. The tents? Gone. The food, the gear, the people? Gone. No signal. No help. Just one thing left behind on the weathered picnic table. A folded note from Mark. This is for the best. Trust me. A joke? A mistake? Or something much, much darker? If you're already stunned, wondering how anyone's family could do that to them, stay with me. Let me tell you what happened in those 10 days in the woods, and what I learned about the people I once trusted with everything. When someone dies, suddenly everyone around you becomes a grief expert. You need a change of scenery. You should focus on your kid. Hannah, you can't keep closing yourself off. I heard it so often, their voices started merging with my own thoughts. Maybe they were right. It had been almost 2 months since David died. We'd built Hearth and Brew together from scratch. A cozy little coffee shop in Fremont with brick walls and latte art David used to swirl himself. Now there were 27 locations, and I was the sole owner. Big deal. Success is empty when you have no one to share it with. Emma was still there. My daughter. My little grown-up in disguise. 10 going on 30. "Mom, you didn't eat again," she said gently one day after I left another full plate untouched and slipped out onto the balcony. "Not hungry. Then at least drink some tea. Daddy said tea doesn't fix problems, but it keeps your hands warm." That was Emma. Soft voice. Eyes like her father's. Not crying. Not complaining. Holding it together because she saw me falling apart. "Just the weekend. 2 nights," my mother Linda said, squeezing my hand like it would anchor me. "Mark's organizing everything. Tents, a lake, Esmores. No phones, no work." "You're kidding, right?" I said. "I'm barely holding it together, and your idea is to put me in a sleeping bag in the woods?" "Not sleeping bags. Nature. Stillness. Time together." My dad, Robert, stood by the window nodding like she was pitching a company merger. Mark, naturally, was there too, that perpetual half-smirk on his face, along with Caroline, who always smelled like coconut sunscreen and looked at me like I was an unpaid intern at her family reunion. "Emma will love it," Mark said. "And you need to get out of that concrete shoebox. I'm not sure being in the woods with people who think grief is a weekend activity is what I need." "Then sit in the tent," he shrugged. "Still beats 3 days in pajamas on your couch." They didn't argue logic. They used Emma. When I told her about the trip, her face lit up like a flashlight in the dark. "Really? We're going to that park Dad talked about? With the lake? And bears? Let's hope no bears. And Esmores? Definitely Esmores." Watching her bounce in place, I felt the tightest parts of me loosen just a little. If she could smile, then I could try. Saturday morning, they picked us up. 2 cars, Mark and Caroline in their Subaru, and my parents in their old Ford Escape. Emma and I rode with Mom and Dad. Sleeping bags in the trunk, coolers packed, camp chairs wedged between grocery bags. I stared out the window at the mist curling over Puget Sound, trying to convince myself I hadn't made a terrible mistake. Crossing into Olympic felt like crossing a border. City noise faded into green silence. My phone blinked, no service. Supposed to feel freeing. Instead, it felt like a warning. We pulled up at the campsite near Lake Crescent. There were picnic tables, logs for sitting, and damp patches of moss that Emma poked with her shoe. "Mom, look! A squirrel! And he has a nut!" Mark and Caroline unpacked like pros. Mark had a hatchet in hand before the engine even cooled. Caroline wiped her sunglasses with a designer cloth. "This is it, guys. No emails. No headlines. Just the great outdoors. Just family." I gave a small laugh. Just family. As if that guaranteed anything. They set up tents. Emma helped. I sat on a log sipping tea from a thermos, watching her leap between stones like a woodland sprite. For a second, just one, I thought, maybe this really could help. Maybe being here, disconnected from everything, surrounded by trees and people who claimed to care, would mend something inside me. I was wrong. When someone dies, life splits into before and after. But every now and then there's a pause. Like the universe hits the brakes and says, Just be. That night by the fire felt like that. I sat wrapped in a blanket, cradling a mug of herbal tea, watching Emma and my nephew Jake argue over who could toast a marshmallow to golden perfection without turning it into charcoal. Emma's tongue stuck out in pure concentration. Jake's face was already smeared with chocolate. And I laughed. Not politely. Not to keep up appearances for my kid. But real laughter. Rising from somewhere deep, from a part of me I thought had been burned out by grief. Caroline was pouring hot cider from a thermos. Mark and my dad were having a mini-war over firewood stacking methods. My mom was wiping her hands on a camping apron no one understood why she brought. And in all of it, in the crackling, warm, marshmallow-scented chaos, there was something that felt almost alive. I watched their faces glow in the firelight, reflected in the lake behind us, and wondered if maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe they were trying to help. Maybe their suggestions weren't attempts to reshape me, but genuine attempts to pull me from the fog. Maybe. That night, I couldn't fall asleep right away. Emma curled beside me, warm, soft, breathing deeply. I lay there, stroking her hair, listening to the faint hiss of dying embers beyond the tent wall. And then something fragile twisted in my throat. David would have loved this. He would have been passing around wine from a camping flask, arguing with Mark over who made better foil pack potatoes. He would have lifted Emma high into the air, squeezed my hand when the stars peeked through the clouds. I didn't cry. I just lay there, holding that feeling like a tiny ember. Maybe this was my turning point. I would survive. For Emma. For him. For myself. I fell asleep with the faintest smile. Mom, wake up. You can see everything from the top. Emma was already dressed in her sneakers, flashlight in hand, eyes lit up like it was Christmas morning. It was barely dawn. We hiked through the trees and climbed a low ridge. From there, the view opened up over Lake Crescent. Still, smooth as glass, framed by golden evergreens and a mist curling low like steamed milk in espresso. Pretty? I asked. Emma nodded, then quietly said, "Too bad Daddy didn't see it." "I think he does." "Really?" "Yeah. He wouldn't miss this for anything." We hugged. For a moment, I felt something solid inside me again. Not ash, but a coal waiting to burn. We got back to camp around 8 a.m. That's when I knew something was wrong. Not immediately. First, it was just silence. No voices. No sizzling camp stove. No rustle of sleeping bags, or my dad grumbling about the morning chill. Just silence. I looked around. The tents were gone. Both of them. Gone. The spot where they stood, empty. No stove. No coolers. No gear. No Subaru. No Ford Escape. Just our tent. And one folding table with a single mug left on it, like someone had just stepped away. "Mom!" Emma's voice was small. "Where is everyone?" My brain buzzed. Ears ringing. Limbs going heavy. Maybe they went somewhere. Got supplies. I said it aloud, more to myself than her. But even as the words left my mouth, they sounded hollow. They wouldn't have left us. Not like this. Not without food. Not without a word. Maybe a note? Emma whispered. Maybe they left something? She pointed to the table. Beneath a rock, a folded piece of paper. Plain. No envelope. Just a torn page from a notepad. I opened it. Mark's handwriting. "This is for the best. Trust me." It didn't register at first. The words were simple. Almost gentle. But behind them was a void. I folded the note slowly. Emma's eyes were wide. "Mom!" I choked. Swallowed. "They left. But why?" And then it hit me. This wasn't a mistake. Not an accident. This was a betrayal. Cold. Deliberate. Calculated. "We'll be okay, sweetheart," I whispered, pulling her into my arms. I held her like my grip could shield her from the world. Inside me, something turned. Something cold, sharp, unfamiliar. They left us. In the woods. No phone. No food. With a child. I looked to where the cars had been. Flattened grass. Tire tracks. Like they'd never been there at all. And just like that, our 10 days in the forest began. I didn't know how long we stood there, me and Emma, in the silence, staring at the hollow campsite where laughter and marshmallows had filled the air just hours earlier. Now, nothing. The cars. The tents. The food. Even the first aid kit. Gone. All that remained was our tiny tent, one lonely camp table, and that godforsaken note. "This is for the best. Trust me." Emma clutched my sleeve. She wasn't crying, but her face had gone pale. Eyes wide, lips trembling. "Mom, are they really not coming back?" I nodded. Slowly, like if I moved too fast, I'd fall apart completely. We checked what we had. My backpack held 2 water bottles, 3 protein bars, some napkins, a lighter, and an old compass. That was it. Just enough to delay death. Not enough to stop it. "We'll make it," I said. It sounded stupid even to me, but it was the only truth I had. Day 1. I made a decision. Follow the stream. It might lead to a lake, a trail, a road, someone. Something. We packed the tent. Emma wore her small backpack. I carried the rest. We hiked maybe 3 miles. Set up camp by the water. I built a tiny fire, gave Emma half a protein bar and some water. "Mom, aren't you eating?" "I already did," I lied. She didn't argue, just nodded. That lie was my offering, my shield. Day 2. Emma washed her face in the stream. I gathered dry branches. No food left. Just movement. Just forward. My muscles screamed. But stopping wasn't an option. Day 3. Hunger stopped being a feeling. It became a presence, a constant growl in our bones. Emma slowed down. Dark shadows bloomed under her eyes. We stopped early. I went scavenging. Thank God for Grandma's old lessons on foraging in Washington. I found huckleberries, then salal berries, then thimbleberries. "Emma, look," I said, holding out a handful. She smiled. The first one in 2 days. We ate 1 berry at a time, like royalty. Day 4. More luck. Some hazelnuts. A patch of wild onions. Emma ate slowly, watching me. I triple-checked every plant. Poison was a luxury we couldn't afford. We kept walking. We didn't talk much anymore. Day 5. We found a shack. A rundown ranger station, half-collapsed, spider-webbed and rotten. But it had a roof. Inside, a rusted can held salt. Actual salt. That night, Emma shivered. I touched her forehead. Burning. "Mom, I'm cold." I didn't sleep. I gave her water. Laid wet cloths across her brow. Dug around outside for white willow bark. Brewed a makeshift aspirin tea. Prayed I wouldn't poison her. Day 6. Fever held on. I made tea from dandelion greens. Bitter, useless maybe, but it gave me something to do. I prayed. I don't pray. But I did. Day 7. The fever finally broke. Emma slept. I foraged more berries. Brought them back in my shirt hem. She ate. Slept again. I cried. Quietly. Day 8. A storm hit. The rain was a solid wall. Thunder cracked like gunfire. The wind howled. I thought the roof would tear away. We huddled under 2 sleeping bags. I told Emma every story I could remember. Fairy tales. Silly memories. Commercial jingles. Anything to keep her from the sound. Somewhere in the thunder, I thought I heard David's voice. "You've got this, Hannah. You know what to do." Day 9. I saw smoke. A thin line above the trees. Someone might be out there. But Emma could barely walk. "Do you trust me?" I asked. "Always." I strapped her into my hiking pack. Tight. Secure. And I walked. Branches slashed my face. My knees buckled. But I walked. I kept chanting inside, "We'll make it. We'll survive. They'll pay." Day 10. We reached another ranger hut, barely standing, but real. Inside, old gear, a broken radio, and newspapers. Then I heard it. The helicopter. I ran outside. I remembered a survival tip, smoke signal, or lay out an H. H means help. I built it fast from branches. Covered it in newspaper scraps. Lit it. Smoke rose. I waved my jacket, screaming. The chopper flew past. Then circled back. It hovered. Someone waved down. "Mom, they see us." Tears ran hot down my face. We made it. But the nightmare wasn't over. It was just beginning. The hospital in Port Angeles felt like a dream I hadn't signed up for. Clean sheets. Antiseptic in the air. The soft click of a drip. Too quiet, after nights filled with howling wind and Emma's fevered breathing. I sat by her bed, watching her sleep under a blanket too white, too sterile. She was safe. We both were. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the real storm hadn't even started yet. On the 3rd day, a man in a suit walked in. Black blazer, polished shoes, badge clipped to his lapel. "Mrs. Harper?" I stood up too quickly. "Yes." He extended his hand. "Special Agent James Danvers. FBI. We're investigating your disappearance and potential insurance fraud." "Insurance fraud?" He sat, opened a tablet, and turned the screen to face me. There it was. The note. "This is for the best. Trust me." A photo of it. The one my brother left behind. This image was submitted by Mark Harrison, your brother, as part of a petition to the King County Court. He claims you wrote it, that you walked into the forest voluntarily due to depression. He filed for a presumptive death ruling for both you and your daughter. My lungs locked. He what? I croaked. He also initiated a claim on your life insurance policy. $1.5 million payout. And attempted to restructure the ownership of your company, Red Pine Coffee, using a forged will. I straightened. My voice hardened. My will was signed 3 years ago. Everything goes to Emma. I never signed a new one. Danvers nodded. We've already flagged the document. The signature doesn't match. The notary involved is under investigation for prior misconduct. He's cooperating now. I shook my head numb. They planned this. Picked a place with no cell service. Left just enough supplies. Filed legal paperwork while we were missing. Danvers said nothing. Just studied me. They submitted my therapist's notes, old social media posts, texts, trying to paint me as unstable? Yes, he confirmed. The court issued a temporary ruling. Presumed dead. Giving your family control of your estate for 30 days. You returned on day 10. My hands were ice. They calculated it. Danvers leaned forward. We need your statements. Access to any messages, documents, anything you can share. The more we gather now, the faster we can act. I nodded. Take everything. That same afternoon, I met with a lawyer. He confirmed what I feared. They had already moved on bank accounts, attempted to change the LLC agreement, even filed to transfer my home title. They were fast, he said, but not faster than you getting out. It's not enough, I said. I want to press charges. Fraud. Conspiracy. Attempted murder. You will, he said. We're coordinating with King County detectives. They're working jointly with the Bureau. Later that night, I sat next to Emma again. She looked up at me, her hand in mine. Mom, she asked, did they really want us to die? I didn't look away. I don't know what their full plan was, but they didn't expect us to come back. Her face changed. No fear. Just steel. We're here now, she whispered. They failed. I kissed her forehead. They failed. That night, I wrote my official statement. Attached everything I had. Texts from Mark, strange voicemails, the photo of the note, even Caroline's odd messages. Tomorrow, the investigation would begin. And this time, I wouldn't be the one left behind. When I finally saw Mark, Caroline, and my parents again, it wasn't in someone's living room or the sterile hallway of a hospital. It was in the King County District Attorney's office, inside a cold, gray conference room with Venetian blinds and bottles of water lined up like props. They sat across the table, the people who had tried to erase me and my daughter from existence. Mark looked down. Caroline was perfectly composed, not a hair out of place. My mother and father looked tired, wearing expressions of forced concern, like they were auditioning for sympathy. I thought you were, Mom started. No, I cut in. You hoped we wouldn't come back. Our lawyer, David Kim, set a thick file on the table and opened it like a card dealer laying out aces. The King County Court received a petition from Mark Harper declaring Hannah Harper and her daughter Emma as presumed dead, he said, accompanied by a handwritten note, submitted as evidence that Hannah had willingly walked into the forest. Also filed were insurance claims and a forged will transferring assets and business ownership. Mark's voice came, strained. We followed procedure. The note looked like a goodbye. We thought she gave up. With her 10-year-old daughter? I turned to him. And none of you found that strange? Caroline jumped in, crisp and clinical. You were in a dark place, Hannah. After David's death, you were posting disturbing things. You said you were drowning, that you didn't see a future. I laughed, dry and hard. So you responded to my grief with insurance fraud? My father tried. We didn't want to hurt you. We were scared. You weren't yourself. David Kim slid a page across the table. The signature on the new will doesn't match. We've submitted it for analysis. The notary involved is under federal review. The FBI already has a file open. Mark was silent. Caroline clenched her water bottle, so hard her knuckles went white. Later that day, I received an email from Red Pine Coffee's corporate bank. All account activity had been frozen. Legal counsel filed for temporary protection of business assets and corporate structure. Any changes initiated by my so-called family were now null. 10 days. That's all it took for them to file to have us declared dead. Begin a $1.5 million life insurance claim. Present a forged will. Attempt to seize business shares and bank accounts. They didn't search for us. Not even a fake attempt. They knew exactly where we were, because they left us there. That night, Emma and I were home, released from the hospital 2 days earlier. She lay curled on the couch in a fleece blanket, clutching a mug of hot cocoa. Mom, she asked, they really thought we were gone forever? I nodded. They didn't just think it. They wanted it. But we came back. I smiled. Yeah, baby. We did. The next morning, I gave a full statement to the district attorney's office. From how the trip was planned, to the morning I woke up in an empty campground. I turned over the original note, photos, business contracts, even my official will from 3 years ago that named Emma as my sole heir. The investigator already had a timeline forming. The notary who stamped the forged will was under scrutiny and had started cooperating. A handwriting expert confirmed discrepancies. Their perfect plan was unraveling. That evening, the news ran our story. Mother and daughter survived 10 days in Olympic National Park after being left behind. Now, prosecutors question whether the family moved too quickly to declare them dead and claim financial benefits. I watched the report stunned, not just by how close we came to disappearing, but how quickly they'd started carving up what we left behind, as if we were already ghosts. Agents told me the case had been referred to federal prosecutors. Mark Harper, Caroline Harper, Linda and Robert Harper, all listed as persons of interest. The notary, now testifying under oath, may receive a plea deal in exchange for full cooperation. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Trial was next. And this time I'd be in the room. 3 weeks after Emma and I made it back to Seattle, the preliminary hearing took place at the King County Courthouse. It wasn't a full trial yet, no jury, no final verdict, but it was the moment where the court decided if there was enough evidence to move forward with criminal charges against Mark, Caroline, and my parents, Linda and Robert Harper. We arrived early that morning. Emma sat next to me in the hallway outside the courtroom, her hair in tight braids, her favorite worn-out chapter book resting on her knees. I couldn't stop staring at the door we'd soon be called through. We were called in first. My attorney, David Kim, walked beside me, calm and precise. The prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, wearing a navy suit-like armor, presented the evidence. The original note Mark left in the forest. A forged will naming him as beneficiary. Confirmation from the insurance company that a $1.5 million claim had been filed. A handwriting analysis showing my signature on the new will was faked. Banking logs and emails showing attempts to access my accounts and take control of Red Pine Coffee. Then came the notary. His name was Martin Shaw. Pale, middle-aged, with shaky hands and a crumpled expression. He admitted to notarizing the will without me present, based on documents delivered by a third party. Under pressure, and in exchange for a promised cut of the business, he went along with it. The prosecution had already secured a cooperation deal with him. Mark, Caroline, and my parents sat just a few feet away. Mark didn't meet my eyes. Caroline was tense but composed, her lips a hard line. My father stared at the floor. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, but I didn't believe a single tear. The judge, a distinguished older black man with clear, steady eyes, listened carefully. After both sides finished, he spoke simply. There is sufficient evidence to proceed. The case will move to trial. After the hearing, the prosecutor approached me quietly. Thank you for surviving, she said. Because of you, we can stop people who believe a life is just a dollar amount. The next day, the media lit up. They left her to die. Daughter and mother exposed chilling family plot in the woods. The Harpers, a family divided by greed. Reporters called. Invitations came from talk shows. I said no to all of them. I wasn't ready to let strangers into our story. Instead, Emma and I focused on living. Really living. We moved. Small house. Nothing fancy. But it had a garden. I planted a rose bush in the center, just like the one David had tended in our old backyard. One evening on the porch, Emma curled beside me, watching the sun fade behind the fence. Mom, do you think they'll go to jail? I paused. Probably. Not today. But it's coming. The truth's on our side now. She nodded slowly, then whispered, I won't ever let you go. I pulled her into my arms and held her close. Her heart beat slow and strong against mine. We knew what lay ahead, depositions, court dates, more painful memories brought back into the light. But we weren't alone anymore. I wasn't the woman they could gaslight or manipulate or abandon. And Emma wasn't just that little girl left in the forest. We'd survived. We'd stood back up. We'd built something new. Sometimes family isn't who shares your blood. It's who chooses you, and who you choose in return. I chose her. She chose me. And in that choice, we found our power. I looked up at the darkening sky and whispered, We're home. We're safe. We're together. 8 months after the preliminary hearing, the trial finally began. It stretched over weeks. Witnesses testified. Experts analyzed signatures. Emails and text messages were read aloud. Emma's name came up more than once, but she never had to speak in court. I made sure of that. After 4 days of deliberation, the jury returned its verdict. Mark Harper was found guilty on multiple counts: conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted unlawful inheritance, and endangering a minor. Sentence: 15 years with the possibility of parole after 10. Caroline Harper was convicted of document forgery and aiding and abetting insurance fraud. She received 12 years, eligible for parole after 8. Linda and Robert Harper were both convicted as accomplices, charged with fabricating death claims and attempting to obtain insurance funds under false pretenses. Each received 10 years, with eligibility for parole in 6. The case made headlines nationwide, but I didn't care. The story wasn't theirs anymore. It was ours. Emma and I began again. We made breakfast on weekends, picked blueberries at a farm nearby, watched movies with too much popcorn. She started painting. I started smiling again. The scars didn't vanish, but they stopped aching. We remembered, but we didn't live there. Forgiveness isn't required, but freedom is, and we found it. Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this story. If Hannah and Emma's journey spoke to you, if you believe that even in the darkest places there's still a way out, please like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who might need it. Your support is the spark that keeps the light going. And now I'm listening. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that turned your world upside down? Tell me in the comments. Sometimes, words can save more than you realize.